Good evening.
Hey, hey.
Hey,
Okay.
hey.
So we have Nick gone and Eileen gone.
Well,
What the
oh,
hell?
that was my phone.
Oh,
I forgot I had the volume turned up.
oh my goodness. There we
Yeah. Well, I had an important call that I needed to make sure I caught today.
go. Did you catch it?
I caught it.
All right. And my phone is always on mute.
Well, mine is too. Um, but the problem with my phone is when people call and they leave a voicemail for me,
Mm-hmm.
I don't get a notification that I've got a voicemail.
Ah,
So So I went in my voicemail this morning for the first time in a long time. I had 19 messages, and the first of those messages went was left April the 4th.
that's about right.
Yeah,
That's,
and once I get 19 messages, mailbox is full, and it will not allow anyone else to to leave another message. I actually had one person down in Florida. He used to work with my dad.
mm-hmm.
Call me and had that happen. Got to my voicemail, couldn't leave a voicemail, and started panicking because he was trying to get a hold of my dad, just to see
Oh,
how he was doing and everything. And I forget what the situation was. He either didn't hear the phone
oh.
or whatnot. So tried to call me, couldn't get a hold of me, and it, oh no, did something happen to them up there?
Yeah.
So, and when they tried calling me, I was in the shower.
Uh,
So when I looked at my phone and saw that I had a missed call, I called them back. Yeah, explained to them, okay, this is what's going on with Dad's phone and this, that, and the other. Hello, Anthony.
that's awful, but it does make people panic.
Yeah, it does, and it also tells me how much we really rely on our phones, not only because we're zombies on our phone, but we use them to make sure that people are okay.
Well, you know, remember, well, you may not, but remember years ago when there was no cell phones
I do.
and people actually just drove to your house? Or I remember before answering machines. So, if that phone rang,
Yeah, that I didn't.
if that phone, we never had an answering machine ever. We went from house phone to car phone and those big old car phones. And of course, you were like, I think it was done by the minute, charged by the minute.
Something
So
like that. But I also remember pagers, beepers.
I had a pager, but it was after I grew up and left home just because I thought it was cool. Believe me, it is not. But I had a hell of a bill from it.
I also remember how extraordinary it was when they started coming out with caller ID.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that was the biggest thing in the world, caller ID. Now we know who's calling and whether or not we can avoid these calls.
And yeah, how did we answer the phone not knowing who was on the other end?
It was a crapshoot at that point.
It was, and oh, I remember. I remember answering the phone if I thought I was getting, like somebody from school I didn't want to talk to, answer the phone in a funny voice, and try to pretend it was my mom or something.
When when was this? Fifth grade. I can remember standing in the foyer right next to the living room. That's where we had our main phone. And I would stand there and talk with whoever for however long.
Uh huh. No, I had 5 minute time on that phone. If I went over that 5 minutes, my mom was hanging up that phone.
Wow.
I didn't have that luxury, and I wasn't allowed to answer the phone if she was there. So, if a boy called, it's like, "Who are you?" Well, they'd say who it was. Hi, Tom. And she's like, "No, I'm sorry, she's not talking to boys." The fuck, mom.
When you grow up, you'll understand.
I never did that to my kids. They want to talk to somebody, they talk, and they better sit right there with me so I know what's being said.
Oh boy, those were the days, weren't they?
Yeah, I was lucky with my oldest daughter. Blonde hair, blue eyes, gorgeous little girl. I didn't have to worry about her running around or doing stupid shit because all her friends came to our house. I didn't have to worry about none of it.
And you could make sure that they weren't doing stupid shit at your house.
Yeah, I mean, they all camped out in the living room floor. Boys, girls, it did not matter. They all camped out in the living room floor and watched scary movies all night.
Ah, nothing wrong with that.
Mm-mm, mm-mm.
Nothing wrong with that. I can remember having having a couple of sleepovers at the house. Some of the other boys that I was friendly with, they would come over, bring sleeping bags over, watch. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I think at that age I was too scared to watch scary movies. Uh,
I was never allowed to as a kid.
I never really got into scary movies until I was about 19, 20, somewhere around there.
Party lines? Huh? Oh, yes. Yes, I got busted talking shit about one of my other friends on that shit. Yeah, it ended in a fight at school the next day.
Oh my.
Oh, yeah. I'm friends with both of those still, by the way.
My my dad got real inventive because he worked in a phone company for 40 years, 40 plus years. Um, so the house that we lived in when I was in fifth and sixth grade, it was a two-story house, and there was an extra room that was added on to the back of a bedroom. The only way to get to that room was through the bedroom.
Oh, no.
Um, so that was my playroom, and instead of mom coming up the stairs and getting me for supper for lunch, what dad did was he put in a singular line in our house only. Um, one right there in the foyer next to the main room, and one in my playroom. And as soon as she picked the one end up, the other end rang.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
We had two phones in the house, and I remember that you could pick up the other one and listen if you were quiet enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was never brave enough to listen in on my parents' conversation, but I'm sure they listened to mine.
Well, yeah, and then they would tell you that they had every right to.
Oh, well, yeah, yeah. I wasn't brave enough to backtalk any of that. Mm-mm. That's
I,
why I left home at 15. I decided I was a big girl.
it never even crossed my mind to try to listen in on a phone call that they had.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, it never crossed my mind. But then again, I was a good boy.
Yeah, I was not a good girl, but phone story is Jeremy and I at the nuns' quarters. What did y'all do? What phone?
I don't remember anything about a phone, but I do remember she was hearing voices in there. Because she and I were the only ones in that building. All of you others were there in the Abbey. She and I were the only ones in that building, and we had, um, I guess, the lunch equivalent of night shift.
Ah,
And she was hearing voices, and at one point, one of the doors closed on us, and it was just out of frame of my camera.
yeah.
Just out of frame of my camera, I was upset. Had the flower vase not been on that little stand there in the hallway, we would have caught it.
Oh, okay, okay, okay. Yeah, I know that my camera did not record anything. Never worked.
No, I thought you lost all that.
Mm-mm. No, it just never worked. No, that was my body cam.
Oh,
The other one just never worked. That's why we were talking to you, trying to figure out, how do you replay this? It was gone.
I
Just
know
never recorded.
I had it up and running because I'm pretty sure that the DVR was automatically recording as soon as the
Yep,
cameras got connected.
it did, but couldn't couldn't download it.
Hi, Keith. Yeah, that was real upsetting
Yeah,
when.
because that should have caught it.
Yeah, I just know that my camera did not because of that vase. Um, the position of the camera was perfect, but it was just that base was right there in the way, and it completely covered the entire door. Just finish it packing, Nick. Come on.
Yeah, he's. I'll tell you what, that boy OCD with this packing. I'm quite sure, like everything else.
Here, let me tag him on that. Maybe he'll get the ding. Because we already know that Eileen's not going to be coming on because she is still stuck at work.
I'll tell you what, we're gonna get a call one day that either she had a heart attack at work or she just dropped where she was at, because I swear that's all she ever does.
Or too much stress that she had to go to the hospital.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because today was, she said, moving day.
Yep, they all moved in, but she met her numbers for people that needed to move in.
She did because their occupancy was at 89% on the 1st of May, and on the 15th of May, it was 96.73.
I tell you what, that especially with the price right now of housing, the last 5 years actually, the price of housing, especially here.
I hear one of your dogs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Ghost, I've heard about enough. Yeah, you get off her ear. Rose, you're not in trouble. Come here. Come on.
Oh, about time.
Come on. Oh, golly.
Nick, do your
Oh,
backing out
no.
to the show.
Nick, you're muted. Hi, Chili.
It's been a crazy day for me. I'm not even joking. So it's been nuts. And believe me, I have been packing up. I packed up early, but too many other things got in the way for me.
Well, how much do you need? You're only going to be gone for 3 days.
it's not just about packing up. I had to do a number of other things too.
Go lay down.
Well, so did I. So did Adrian.
Yeah.
It's just been a crazy day. That's all I can
Yeah.
really
So,
say.
yeah. Speaking of you two, I'm just gonna say this while I remember it.
Us?
I need any of y'all's pictures that you have, any paranormal pictures, because I'm running one of the coffee talks again
Okay.
on ghost hunting at work. And I'm not going to put pictures up there that I don't know where they came from or don't trust. So, yeah. Oh, there we go.
Okay, so you want evidence pictures,
Yeah,
but no video.
right. I can't do video.
Okay, so what I can do is I can do screenshots of the what I have on my couple of videos, and I can also do before and afters so that they can see, okay, what was before this, and then this happened, and what it looked like after that.
Yeah, yeah. Um, we're
Yeah.
going to, we're able to put up like links. So I can like put up links to the things page, things like that.
Okay.
Or our usernames, things like that. We just can't click on them at work because security.
Okay.
Yeah,
and
that would have to be the
we
same
need
thing
this.
as like the only images I have obviously is the video, so I have to give you still images instead.
Right. Yeah.
When do you
But
need these?
but yeah, the last time we talked about personal experiences and people were wanting readings and things like that, and I can't. I'm not doing readings at work. It's just not. It's just not okay. So we're not going to go into that. But and people ask me, like, hey, do you think this was paranormal? And tell me a story, and I'm like, I wasn't there. I don't know. Could it be this? Could it be this? I don't know. I don't. I wasn't there.
Jan, what did you send me?
That she had evidence pictures.
Evidence of what?
I don't know.
That's what you got to worry about with her.
That's
Evidence
what
of
I
what?
wonder if it's since she brought up the other name. I wonder if it's evidence of beef sticks.
Yeah, well, it's not paranormal per se.
Uh-oh, maybe I was right. Uh,
She's walking past a soldier who has another soldier draped across his shoulder.
hmm.
One of them bronze statues.
Oh, the bronze
That
statue.
was at the Abbey at the winery, right? I remember a statue like that at the winery.
Well, let me share it.
Oh, good God. Hell no, 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 ma'am.
Whoa! Oh my God!
No, ma'am.
Well, you went to the winery. I did not, so I don't know what the.
I don't have any idea what I was running for. Something better be on fire if my big ass is running.
Yeah, I wonder what that was. All of a sudden, it just showed me sharing another screen, but I didn't click on anything.
Nothing showed up either.
Yeah. Oh, and then as soon as we go live, you were brought up on the stream. I had to take you back off.
I saw that.
That's happened twice now.
Yeah, it's doing all kinds of funky things.
Yeah.
Jan, what was I running for?
Chance like I can't
haven't
stop
even had
laughing.
one.
Maybe you were late for something.
I don't know what she's laughing. So, oh, it must be the picture she's laughing about.
Yeah.
Hey, what's up, Scott?
Hey, Scott.
Center of attention.
Yeah, are we all center of attentions?
I think we pretty much are.
I had to pee. That's possible. That might be possible.
If it was there at the Abbey, yeah, because it was hot. So we all had to make sure we stayed hydrated.
Yeah, and we didn't have any wine at the winery. We bought it, but we didn't have it. Oh, to get out of the picture.
Get out of the picture.
Oh, well,
That worked well, didn't it?
yeah, she did not succeed in that.
No.
But
No,
but
that
then
didn't
again, that's the whole point of the pictures that you don't succeed in getting away from. Nick knows that the hard way.
Yeah. Yeah, and that makes me kind of concerned of how this weekend is going to be, especially when we come back home from
Nick,
Ohio.
don't even worry about it because it is going to happen whether you like it or not. So just so I would say stop arguing about it and just embrace it.
You're just telling me to just let it happen.
Let it happen because it's going to happen. Oh, the ghost van trip! Holy cow, that was so much fun.
To Colorado, right? Wasn't that it?
That's the ghost van trip. That's where you, me, Scott, and Tammy
That's,
rode out
that's
there.
what I mean. Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
That
I was
was
hoping we could do. I was hoping we could do another trip like that this summer. Would be awesome.
oh man, that was so much fun. Probably the best part was when the radio got into
Yeah, when you had the what was? Oh my God, what was it that Scott said that made us laugh so much?
I don't know what he was trying to do, but somehow it got into that voice to text activation, and then he said no, 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 and it's
Oh yeah.
all those no's.
It was a little late by then.
Yeah.
Oh, it was very late. We, Scott about had to pull over because all four of us were crying.
Oh my God, that was awesome though. I think we even got a little video of us doing that too.
Not on that specific one, but
No, like the aftermath of us laughing.
yeah, the aftermath. But holy cow, if we could have gotten that no, 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 and it actually showing up on the screen on video, that would have been a treasure.
Yeah.
You guys are awful.
And
RV on fire.
Wait.
I don't
You guys were
remember that.
cruising on your way back, and I was stuck. Oh yeah, due to the RV on fire. That's right.
I don't remember that.
Yeah, she said she was stuck in Utah, I think, when she was heading back.
I'm drawing a complete blank on that.
That could go dumb. That could go dumb in the night. That could scare anyone.
Yeah.
That sounds like a title of a new book. Dumb in the Night. Oh my God! I just thought of it. Dumb in the Night.
It would have to be a comedy, though.
No, here's a good title for it. Things that go dumb in the night. The funny side of paranormal investigators. You
And
can
a
write
big
that.
old picture of Zach Bagans.
You know, Jeremy, since you've written stories, you can write that story. You can write a book about it.
I probably could. It wouldn't be like one big. It wouldn't be like a novel. It would have to be a bunch of little short stories.
Yeah.
That'd be the only way to do it because I don't know if I could try to make a comedy stretch out so far.
I could already see not only pictures of me sleeping on the way back in that book featured in it, but also that picture of me coming across Nick's beef sticks.
Well, yes, that no, Tammy took that picture.
I
Yeah,
was gonna
Tammy
say, I've
took it.
seen that
Yeah,
picture.
but you can still add that to the book. Adrian with the whistle.
Let's see here.
Yeah, of course, Utah. Yeah, I remember Jan said, yeah, she was stuck in the traffic for like hours when the RV was on fire.
Utah is no place to be stuck.
I've never been to Utah, and honestly, I never would think Utah would be the
There's
state where they
nothing
would have
there.
so much traffic.
Well, I mean, there's there's lots of Indian land that's really cool. There's Indian artifacts that are really cool.
Of course,
But
Skinwalker Ranch.
Well, I just wrote it down on my short story ideas. Funny paranormal stories.
Dumb in the night.
No,
Wait,
not to put.
have you ever
harvest
wait?
mix for the
Have you ever
beefsteaks.
wondered if they harvested nicks for
You
the best
so
beef
dumb in the night.
Hey Nick, go in the other room, check, make sure you still got your beefsteak, dude.
Okay, I got that. I got that written in my story ideas. Things that go dumb in the night, real like paranormal, funny stories. That yeah.
I can already imagine one of those. I
That's
can
a
already
weird
imagine one of those chapters because we just brought up. I can already see like a chapter title saying "No, no, 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 no." That would be a good chapter title.
But the question would be is how many no's would be appropriate?
Probably a good 5 or 6. Hey, Braxton, good to see you here.
Hello? Yeah. But it would be a while before I could even try to write something like that because
Yeah,
I just started a new book a few days ago.
Did you all see Annabelle is in Texas?
I saw that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I saw that she was on the road.
Well, yeah. So I didn't know she was in Texas, but
Did
yeah,
you see the video I reposted of what happened in New Orleans?
no. Funny enough, Braxton, he lives, I think, in New Orleans. In fact,
There was a woman, they were at the French Quarter, and you know, there's lots of voodoo in New Orleans. Well, when they pulled up and they were pulling everything out of the van, this lady walked up, and if you know voodoo, that wasn't voodoo, but she was trying to ward that spirit off. She was up there doing her little thing, warding the spirit off. It was funny.
This is on your page.
Yeah, I reshared it this morning.
this ought to be interesting because I saw a post about like
Uh,
Annabelle like yesterday, but it was just a photograph. I didn't see a video.
There, he did a video, and I watched his live this morning as they were traveling to Texas.
yeah, she's got the face paint and everything.
Hmm. That
It's
girl
on
meant
your,
business. I am telling you, she meant business.
Yeah, she did. You can tell by the way she's shaking those cymbals or the
The
percussion.
symbols, yeah. I mean, she was saying, "I don't want this shit here."
and
Yeah.
it's on your page, Adrian.
Yeah. You know, I don't know. I can't say
Oh,
that I
jeez.
would be scared of Annabelle, but I cannot say that I'm going to test that theory and drive around with her.
Yeah, Braxton says, I don't think I've heard of that down there yet. They say people can read or sense the nature of someone's business. You got to stand on business, which again, it said, I'm
Yeah.
sure Braxton's probably very familiar with that since he lives down in Louisiana.
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, it was very well publicized. It's going to be there, but holy crap. You know, I would go visit Annabelle. I'm not going to drive around with her. I'm not going to hold her. I'm not about to be testing my luck.
Yeah, considering at least 1 or 2 people have died apparently from her.
Huh?
Yeah.
No.
You ever heard about that?
No.
There
The
was.
story of Annabelle. She killed 2 teenage girls or college girls.
Well, actually, no. I heard it was from like. Actually, wait. Well, actually, no. You're right. I think one of them was a girl. I didn't know that she was a college student. Not the college.
Okay.
Student.
Wait a minute.
No. Those were the original owners of Annabelle.
That's the original owners. That's right. It was college roommates.
Yeah, and actually no, there was a motorcyclist that almost died too because he came out to the museum and he heard the story about Annabelle, and he went obviously to the museum and heard of the whole thing about Annabelle, and he started taunting the doll, started banging at the case, and it got to a point where Ed and Lorraine Warren, they had to tell him that you got to leave. You're not. It's not just about that. This is real stuff here. He was just being very disrespectful, and he got on his motorcycle. And after a few minutes being on the highway, he lost control of his motorcycle. This was a very experienced motorcyclist. He lost experience, and he almost died as a result. No joke.
Well, then,
To this day, I mean, I don't know if he's still alive today, but after that, he really believed that the doll was trying to kill him, and he was like saying before, "I should have listened."
and those kinds of things can always be debunked.
Paid the ultimate price for it.
Those kind of things can always be debunked because, okay, what if something happened? What if it only takes a little pothole in the road for a motorcycle to lose control?
Yeah.
And people don't realize, you're not putting me on 2 wheels. I'm sorry. No. But I wouldn't drive it. Look at Zach. He's been riding for years, and now he has a traumatic brain injury because of someone else. He avoided, someone else. But, things like that, like Robert the doll. We talked about Robert. Marie Laveau. I went to her site there. Yes. I told you, I think last time I went and helped take down FEMA trailers after,
Tom,
and
Tom, my shoes.
wash your feet, dude.
No, it's not. I'll explain afterwards.
But like Robert the doll, they're talking about Robert the doll did this and this and this and this. But did he? Or did they attribute what happened to him? You just never know. How are you? You can't scientifically link that. So, we just don't know, but I'm not willing to take that chance.
Right.
It's, no, I'm
There
good.
was actually one time that, and I still remember this even several years later, where it kind of creeped me out actually, where I guess someone was a real big fan of Annabelle because I was with a friend of mine. We were driving down in a town called Evanston. So not Evanston, a town called Wilmette. It's about 15, 20 minutes away from where I live. And a good majority of Wilmette is pretty historic. It has like a lot of the, turn of the century homes. It's essentially like where all the rich folks live, basically. They even still have, some of the roads still have their cobblestones on the roads. But we were driving down one of the neighborhoods to the town, throughout Wilmette, and we came across this house that had like kind of like one of those towers, like a turret tower that they had. And I see someone standing in the window, and I didn't really take much notice. But then as we got closer, I looked back up, and literally, I'm not even joking, there was a Raggedy Ann doll standing in the window. I'm like, I actually got freaked out, Brie. Like, oh my
Where
god.
is this?
Someone put a Raggedy Ann. That scared me.
I know. I saw on Facebook that you moved away. I wish I would have known that, or you would have come up here before you left.
Now in Washington. Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, Braxton. Yeah, you did. In fact, since he brought up about Robert the doll, I showed a clip of Robert the doll last week on Fear Fans.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was actually the first documentary I've ever seen anything about Robert. That was I actually saw that during my early days of studying the paranormal, and I
Uh-huh.
showed the clip because we were talking about Child's Play 2 last week. So I was showing the real inspiration, the real life inspiration of it.
Okay, so first I'm going to address this comment from the things I heard when you were here. I'm really glad you did. I'm glad you're going through that divorce, and I'm glad you're taking your life back, and hopefully find somebody that is not that person. That's that's as far as I'll go. Um, there was a comment here. Braxton, she made cosmetics out of her slaves. What the hell? That's one I have not heard.
Let me see.
Delphine Lorelei.
Oh,
Did
Delphine. Oh,
did I say it right?
yeah. No, LaLaurie.
Okay. What? Excuse me. What?
Here,
How?
let me see what he said. Was this his most recent? Oh, wait, no, it must have been further back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I see it now.
Out of her slaves.
Yeah. Oh God, she was horrible. She treated slaves like pretty much to the extreme.
What on earth?
She tortured her slaves. I mean, it was just awful. She's like, I think she's became kind of considered one of the, and of course she even murdered some of her own slaves too. I mean, she's basically what I would consider one of the most. She pretty much has the term of a serial killer.
I can't
I would,
even watch shows like that. There was a show like that, and it made it be the same person. I don't really know,
I
but
would,
there was a documentary of it was set, of course, in slavery times, but she had them up in an attic. Now, I'm sure y'all might know this story, but had them up maybe upstairs in an attic or just upstairs, had them chained to walls. And somebody came in because they were pissed off at her and set their house on fire. And somebody found those people upstairs. Some of them still living, thank God. But they were missing like parts of them, like
yeah,
their arms and uh, I just can't even imagine. And her name is not. It might be that person. I don't know. I didn't care to remember her name because that's just. But I remember the story, and I remember it was a kind of a movie type thing, a documentary, and so they replayed it, and those are the memories that stick in my head. Not
that
her.
I'm reading a thing here. It says
yeah.
American registers from 1830 to 1834
Here you go, Adrian.
deaths of 12 enslaved people at the Royal Street Mansion. Although the causes of said deaths are not mentioned, these deaths include a woman named Bonnie, a cook and laundress, and her four children, aged
That is the
13,
story.
10, 6, and 4.
That is the story.
That's,
That yeah. Mm.
yeah, it is. It is Delphine LaLaurie and Julie. I know exactly. I've seen that show actually. I remember that was in American Horror Story Coven. I saw that, and yeah, she's basically what I would consider one of the most prolific serial killers of slaves in U.S. history. I mean, and you're right. Yeah, she was. She maintained her position in New Orleans society until April 10th, 1834, when rescuers responded to a fire at her Royal Street mansion. They
Yep.
discovered bound slaves in her attic who showed evidence of cruel, violent abuse over a long period. LaLaurie's house, as Braxton just said, was subsequently sacked by an outraged mob of New Orleans citizens. So
Good.
even during a period when slavery was still huge down in the South, especially in Louisiana, and as cruel as a lot of owners were, they still had their limits to their slaves. Like they would not, none of these slave owners, I think, ever gone to the extreme of what Delphine had gone through. So it even not only pissed off a lot of, like, it really horrified a lot of slaves that were not only were still under her control, as well as other slaves throughout that part of the country, but it shocked even slave owners. Like they never would even think of going to that extreme. And her house was set on fire. And to make matters worse, she was never arrested. She was never prosecuted for her crimes because she escaped to France with her family.
Oh
And
yeah, she was just not in this life. Oh yeah, she was.
The
yes,
Laloy Mansion in April 2007, Nicolas Cage bought the house.
oh my God, Nicolas Cage, seriously?
Wow.
The mortgage documents were arranged in such a way that Cage's name did not appear on them. November of 2009, the property, then valued at 3.5 million, was listed on an auction as a result of foreclosure and purchased by Regions Financial Corporation. The property last changed hands in 2010 when it was purchased by current owner Michael Whalen for 2.5 million or 2.1 million.
You
So
know, and these are the things. Yes, those stories need to come out. It, yes, we need to hear those stories about. You know, I've been watching old. They're not westerns, but like when the railroad was built, it was called Hell on Wheels, and you know, just North and South Railroad when they met, and you know, different things. But they're showing the slaves and the Chinese slaves and
Yeah.
you know, our slaves where they they show the scars on their back from their
Oh
beatings,
God, it's horrible.
and you know, those things need to be shown. The But what about the people that were good to their slaves? They Some people had them as family members. They were not slaves to them. Why
Well,
are we not?
there's that whole belief about Thomas Jefferson, who he he owned slaves, but he apparently there was a rumor, and still to this day, that he ended up marrying one of his slaves and had racially mixed children.
He didn't marry nothing.
Well, no,
He
well that's
did have children, but he didn't marry.
I wouldn't
He
say
was
well, okay, so I take
no,
it back.
I
Maybe
think
not
he was
married, but he did
already
have a
married.
relation with a slave woman and had children.
that happens so often, and many times without the slave's consent,
Yeah.
because they were not allowed to have. They couldn't go have. I'm going to say this differently because we may get this show removed. They could not have procedures done to not have the child where other people could have that procedure. They had to carry this child, and most of the time it was unwanted and unwarranted.
Thomas Jefferson was married from 1772 to 1782. So he was only married for 10 years.
10 years.
Yep, Jan, that's what
Yeah,
part of this show is talking about.
and then of
Is the
course,
Chinese
yeah.
building the railroad? Yes, their people built the railroad, but the Chinese brought, like, one tycoon would bring a bunch of people over, and they were pretty much slaves, and they
Well,
would
and
also
even
take off the top of their pay.
well, if you look at, for example, and even though a lot of Chinese voluntarily took part in this, like for example, the Great Transcontinental Railroad of 1866 to 1869. Yes, a lot of them voluntarily joined, to work on the railroad because they were so good at building. But problem was, even though they, according to what I heard, they were well
Okay.
disciplined, but unfortunately, they weren't really treated very well by their coworkers in this case. A lot
Right.
of the white workers, maybe former slaves, because there were blacks that worked on it too. They collected basically everybody they could from throughout the country
They
to
were
work.
called freemen
Freemen, yeah,
because they were just free.
they were
And this
free.
story, I love this story because the freemen on this show are the heroes of this show. Besides the main character, they are the heroes. And you know how close this is to real life, I don't know, but I would like to think that it is because it turned out okay.
Well, here's something else that should be, and this is something I think a lot of
Right.
us already know. Let's talk about like the Chinese workers, for example, is there's that famous photograph that was taken, after the completion of the Transcontinental Railroad in Promontory, Utah. The two trains, the two locomotives meet up, and they have that full picture of everybody that took part in it. And yes, they say it's considered one of the most famous photographs in history, but in spite of the notoriety of it, if you look very closely, not a single Chinese worker or freeman was featured in that photograph. It was essentially, in fact, most of it was mainly just white men. I mean, women were not even included. At least most of them were not even included to the picture. So they literally took all the credit from all the other groups that actually worked on the railroad.
Well, women couldn't own land
Yeah.
then either. Women were one of two things: a wife, and they would be the voice to their husband if their husband would listen, if they had a brain for business, or they were a whore. That was it.
Yeah. And then, like I said, as for the Chinese and free men, they were just, even though they were considered, they were considered the backbone, but unfortunately they should have received more credit for what they did. In fact,
Stagecoach Annie, was that her name? Anyway, this woman drove a stagecoach. She was a nun. She was at the nunnery. Decided this isn't for her. She went out there and drove stagecoach for the railroad. And this woman she'll fight a man. She made her own money.
Mary,
And they feared her, huh?
Stagecoach Mary.
There we go.
Okay.
And this woman's in the show, and it is, I love it.
I was able to find the other children of Thomas Jefferson. So his wife died in 1882. His first child with the slave woman was born in 1782.
Mhm.
His first child with the slave woman was 1795.
Okay.
So 13 years after the death of his wife, and they had up to 6 children, but let's see,
Oakley Annie.
Annie Oakley.
two,
Yep.
two of them died at very young ages.
Well, and the other thing too is that and I was going to say 1782 because I was going to say that would have been unusual for when you said 1882, because I was going to say Thomas Jefferson himself though died in 1826, almost 200. It's about 200 years ago.
Yeah.
And,
It's, I mean, there is so much history that is now coming out due to DNA.
Well, one more thing about I don't know if you guys remember hearing this. In fact, on the 150th anniversary of the Transcontinental Railroad, for example, descendants of the Chinese workers, they all came out to that same exact spot at Promontory, Utah, and got kind of like a replica picture of the original picture that was taken back in May of 1869. They wanted to not only have what should have been taken, featuring the Chinese workers,
Right.
but also including, like I said, including the women involved, and even the in this case the great grand. I mean, not even the kids were allowed, like their kids were allowed to take pictures, and it was just like a specific white man's only picture, and that was it. No one else, even if their wives and kids were white, they were not allowed to take part in it either. So
No.
the Chinese, the descendants of the Chinese workers were trying to basically do what should have been done 100, in this case, over 150 years ago.
Times
Well-
were different back then.
Yeah, I know it was.
Look how far we've come, and then look how far we've crossed that line. I mean, just jumped the fuck over it. Because, yes, I understand, women got their rights to vote. Great. Women got to own land. Great. Then they burn their bras. Great. Run around braless, whatever the hell you want to do. Whatever.
They still do that.
Oh,
Yep.
I know. That's okay. Their boobies will be all the way down to their
Well, I remember seeing a video not too long ago, somewhere over there, they there was like about 50 or 100 of them topless, and they had something painted on their chests,
Mhm.
and they also had the Hitler mustache painted on their upper lip.
Yeah, it's legal in places, but here's the thing. Okay, so we got our rights. Great. Then we stepped over that line and we stomped on that line and decided men are inferior at this point. We're done. We're stomping on men because we can do anything we want to do. We don't need you. So men, okay, you don't need us. We're going to stay home and raise kids. You get your ass out there and work. So that has become now the mentality. It doesn't matter what you want to do. You know, the woman can do it. I'm just going to sit here and play video games. The
There,
woman
there, there are couples out there where the woman does go out and and work, and the man stays home and raises.
and that's fine if that's between them. If that's the arrangement that is okay with them, that's great. But then we have the women complaining that men won't work. Okay. Well, back before we crossed that line and jumped over that line so far, men worked.
Suffrage movement and all that, what Braxton said.
Men worked. And they took care of their women.
Thing back then.
I'm sure there was deadbeats like there is now. Of course there was. But as a whole,
Probably deadbeats since the beginning of time.
there
Yep,
is, I'm
yep.
sure. But, now it's like it is so acceptable to degrade men. It is so acceptable to say, I don't need a man. Okay, if that's really the case, that's perfectly fine. If you're going to be independent, that's perfectly fine. But to make it the stigma that you don't need a man, that, men are bad, this is not okay. It's become a male-female war, and it should not be.
So that's where you need to go back and look at, okay, what put her in that kind of mentality.
Sometimes society, because that's all you see on Facebook.
Women have caused men to not
Yeah,
be able to be men.
demasculating constantly.
Yeah.
This is not okay. I mean, if you want to be an independent woman, that's perfectly fine. It's because either you chose the wrong man or circumstances made you independent. That's perfectly fine. That doesn't mean you need to bash every man. And every woman is not a whore. That's we have jumped over that line way, way too far. And it's becoming okay.
I'm going to show this. Braxton's really presenting a lot of interesting comments here. That's why I'm showing them. Yeah, like with Pearl Harbor. During World War II, many of the women went to work in factories, manufactured plane parts and whatever. I mean, they did a lot of the work.
Right.
And many of the men were off serving during World War II.
But that's okay. That's because their men were serving. So they had to take control of the country here and do something and for their families. And they were allowed to do that. That's great.
Yep. And
But-
that's the other thing, too, Braxton points out, too, is that they also, at times, assisted and helped out in the war, like as nurses and doctors, too.
But what happened to
Okay.
normalizing respecting men or your man? What happened to normalizing that instead of demasculating them?
That started going the wayside when everything else was happening. Where people were, what they thought were gaining independent thought, were actually getting this mass hysteria thing,
Mm-hmm.
where, okay, we got our rights. Now we're going to push our rights to be more than what the other people, and that's where I have the problem. Like, not like not women. Like, let's gay people.
Mm-hmm.
I could give two shits if you gay.
I like
don't
that.
care.
No, love who you want.
Right.
Got a compliment here, Adrian, about what Braxton said.
I have no filter. I just don't.
No, he's
So-
saying spread those facts.
So gay people, in my opinion, they should have all the same rights as anybody else.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I feel like they deserve more rights. Absolutely not.
No,
You deserve same and equal rights as we do.
Yeah.
that's right. If we would make
There's still a
everything
few countries
equal.
out. There's still a few countries out there that, unfortunately, it's still outlawed. Which I think I told you guys a while back, like
Some of it is
Singapore.
punishable by some countries. It's punishable by death.
Oh, and like I said, unfortunately, like in a country, I told you a while back. I told you guys a while back, the country of Singapore, which has some of the craziest laws ever, but unfortunately, one of those laws there is
Yeah, that
homosexual.
the Singapore King kid found that out the hard way, and boy, did that make news.
Yeah, they
Right.
were unfortunately. Yeah, that's one of the. Yeah, but unfortunately, it's one of the countries that still it's illegal over there. But I heard that the people of Singapore are trying to get that legalized. They're still trying.
Well, the thing that you got to keep in mind
There
is
you go.
Singapore is a completely different culture from us.
Yes, it is.
It's completely different culture, and that's something that we do have to take into account. Okay, they handle things their own way. We don't have the right really to stop them
Absolutely
or
not.
change. Now, if they want to change, then
Yep.
by all means help them out. But
Right.
we shouldn't force them to change just because we don't agree with what they do.
Bottom line, just like Jan is saying here,
Just
the
gotta daycare and stop letting other people raise your kids.
right, and there are circumstances, of course, where if a man is no longer with the person, whether through death or choice, whatever, then yes, you have to take over. But when you have, or a man like my ex-husband had a heart attack, I had to work. There was no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I worked, but well, I've always worked. But the pack, it's not pack mentality. Jan, what am I thinking of? The tribe
Right.
mentality of you have your little tribe and
Tribalism.
well,
Tribalism.
kind of the village raising the kids, where
That's right.
if
Joel.
your kid goes down the road and he steals something, that kid's going to get brought back, but he's going to get brought back with a sore ass because the neighbor's going to beat that ass all the way home. And so that kid understands at that point.
You had a situation like that yourself.
I did, but that was to an extreme that I couldn't do.
Well, true, but same principle.
Right. So that kid knew from then on, anybody out there seeing him doing this bullshit, he's going to get his ass beat. You just don't do it. It's community. Like, when Jan was sick, I had the kids. When I get sick, she's going to have me. That's just the way it is. But you have your tribe that you can do this with. But choosing, I don't know, you have to choose your tribe is we're in a world where family it doesn't mean what it did. It never really did. Blood does not mean family because sometimes blood is your worst enemy. And
Yes.
that's life.
Yeah.
And it's always been that way. So family is who you choose to be your family. And it's who you trust. Can't even make your own choice. The fuck, I can't. I'm going to tell you what. I had all 5 of my grandkids. The fuck, I can't. And actually, that started when my kids were little. And they were like, I'm going to tell on you. I said, all right. Put the cell phone down on the counter. I said, now, I'm going to whoop that ass. Then you can have the phone. When they get here, I get a vacation. And you can go wherever it is they're going to take you. Needless to say, Never called. But they grew up to be great kids. Every damn one of them. Whoopings was served from sun.
Sun
Yeah,
up to
bet it
sundown.
was.
That's an
It,
interesting way that he put it. First, got to make it to the phone.
it's pretty sad today that you can actually tell the kids, the adults really, the adults that grew up in families where they spanked you, and the ones that grew up in families where they didn't spank you. You
Yep.
can almost always tell.
I mean, there is a huge difference. Absolutely, there's a difference between spanking and beating. But somebody made an impression on me one time, and this saying stuck. Was if you make an impression that first time it happens, instead of working your way up from two, and then get that ass, and then you have to get it harder, it don't work anymore. They're
I,
immune.
I remember a story my brother told me. Um, when his son was young, I forget what age he was, but he was young, and he did something bad, and he was going to spank him. And he said, "You spank me, I'm going to call the police."
Yep, yep. That's what I
So,
heard too.
so, so he goes, "Okay," spanked the tar out of him.
Hmm.
Then he handed him the phone. "Okay,
Yep,
now you call the police." He
yep.
didn't dare call the police.
Now my son did once, and
Really?
it was because we lived in a town of like 500, and I don't even know if it was him or my stepson, but anyway, one of them. We were out on the farm, and they done something, and they all got lined up, all the farm kids, because everybody lied about who did it. Each one of them got a SWAT. One of them called. Well, I worked as a paralegal. Two cops in town, one judge, and the sheriff's department barely ever came over because it was a small town. He shows up at my house. Said, I got a call. I said, did you? He said, I want to talk to the kids. I said, okay. And he sits the kids down. He says, Mama, you want to go outside for a minute? Sure. By the time I come back in, all the kids were crying, telling me they'll never call. He said, you're welcome, and left. He didn't touch them. He told them what could happen. They never done that again. Yep, yeah, something like that. This was such a small town. I miss small towns. I miss this. You're speeding down the road. Your phone rings. Pick it up. Do not make me turn around and stop you. Stop speeding. Oh, okay. It's just the way it was.
I wish we had something like that here in this neighborhood. People just love to fly right by. We have a 25 speed limit,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a school at the very end of my street. It used to be an elementary school. Now it's like half college, half high school type
I
thing.
think I've actually seen that building when I came over to your house a few times.
Yeah, and now when the people get out of school there, and it's twice. There's two times. They get out of class at 10:15, and they get out of class at 2:30, and each time they're
Yeah, excuse
down
me.
there. And there's also school buses, flies down there.
Yeah, see, we have a new thing here in Greeley, and it's not just at stoplights. There's a vehicle that is posed in different places in town, and they have a video thing. They take as soon as they see the speeding, it registers. They get the picture of your tag, and you get sent a ticket.
There was a couple times where they would put like one of those speed limit things that
Yeah,
said
that's speed
speed
limit. We
limit
got one of
is
those in our
this,
neighborhood too.
your speed is this.
Yep.
There was a few times they did that. There was also a couple times where they would put in these portable speed bumps.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They did that, and these are the sharp kind of speed bumps where even
Good.
if you're going 5 miles over it, you're going to feel it.
Good. Good.
Uh,
And I
Yeah,
think you should be.
we're like that too in this neighborhood. Is just like you, Jerry. We got a 25 speed limit. Actually, no, I think we might be a little bit lower. I think it's 20. I think.
Oh wow.
And
I know some neighborhoods do go 20.
yeah, they do. Our neighborhood does,
It
and
goes down to 15 here in
yeah,
some.
it's 20 over here. But kind of like with you too, Jeremy. We got two schools in our area, both of which I went to when I was growing up. One obviously is the elementary school, and then just literally across the street is the high school I went to. Now, surprisingly, a lot of we well, we didn't really have a lot. Not many of the students actually live here in this neighborhood, so we're fortunate enough that we haven't really had a lot of like those crazy drivers come through the neighborhood. But we've had still every now and then we have like at least one or two of them that will show up, whether they're from the high school or not is beyond me. But they'll go like almost double, like sometimes double the speed limit of the neighborhood, and it's just like, damn, I'm really surprised we haven't had a serious accident in the
They
neighborhood.
don't care. They
Yeah,
just,
they don't. Well,
just
they
wanna-
don't care, but I'm
they wanna-
surprised it hasn't happened yet. There was actually one time looking back now, I think I actually almost got hit by one of those cars because I was just riding down my bike in the neighborhood, and this car comes up. I didn't even hear it coming because it was coming by so quick. So I always usually make sure to check, but this happened so fast that I never even saw it coming or even heard it.
Yeah, people just don't care. All they care about is getting where they want to go.
No, they don't. Yeah. Look what Braxton said, saying, "This y'all is a black American mother's famous words of warning. If you act like a fool when we get in here, it's going to be me and you."
That- It should kind of be that way all the way around. But
The classic.
Classic horseshoe belt switch open palm extension.
House shoe.
What?
House shoe,
House shoe.
Belt.
Sorry, I thought it said horseshoe.
switch, open palm extension cord. The chancla.
That's what it's called, a chunkla?
The house shoe is in Hispanic household. That's a chancla.
Hmm.
It's a
yeah, it's a very big thing. Sometimes they do that in wrestling. When there was a wrestling show that went down to Puerto Rico, and in one of the matches, it was a Puerto Rican wrestler. She was having her thing, and then all of a sudden, somebody tossed her a flip flop. The whole crowd goes crazy.
Oh my God. I can only imagine.
Yeah, it was awesome.
coat hanger. That's some mommy dearest shit.
Now,
I thought the same thing, Julie. Yeah, I thought it said horseshoe. I didn't see house shoe.
Now, in my neighborhood, what I've done a few times is, okay, I'm going right at the speed limit, and somebody is rushing right up and just rides my ass. I slow down. I go down to 20, let them stick to it, and then if they stay behind me, I'll take them all the way to the house until they eventually turn, and then I'll go home. I just have fun with them.
Yeah, Braxton. Yeah, I know that very, very well. My daughters. I was only 17. Yeah, 17. I went back to work after I had my daughter. She was like 6 months old, and our neighbor was the friendliest, sweetest black woman I have ever met. She was like my mama. And so she babysat my little girl. And some of the things I learned, absolutely amazing. You will never learn anywhere else. And I kept in touch with that woman until she could no longer keep in touch. Even a horseshoe, if it was near.
A horseshoe.
Yeah.
That would be okay. No offense, but that would be kind of a little bit extreme using a horseshoe.
I have thrown shit at my kids from across the yard that
Aren't
maybe a
horses-
horseshoe or two.
Aren't horseshoes like really heavy though?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Depends on if it's a Clydesdale shoe or a pony shoe.
Have you ever tossed horseshoes before, Nick?
And
No,
those are
I
not
have. I've
real
seen
horseshoes.
horseshoes, but I've never tossed them though.
They're not real horseshoes that you toss.
Well, I figured they were.
Yeah. Oh, spoons. Yes, I had a wooden spoon that was like this big, and it had a drawing on it, and it was so pretty. It was from Bulgaria. And my daughter come in the kitchen, and I don't know, she mouthed something, and we had mirrors all over the house, and she mouthed bitch. And as she was walking away from me, I'm like, oh yeah. The only thing I could find was that spoon that was on the wall, and I swatted her ass with that spoon, and the little rivet in the back of the jeans split the spoon in half.
Oh my
She still
gosh,
laughs to this
jeez.
day, saying, I broke the wooden spoon.
I remember hearing stories where parents would keep a fly swatter
Hey
on
Joe.
the dash so that if the kids in the back seat were acting up, they could take their fly swatter and just start smacking them back like that.
Yep.
Hopefully it wasn't I hope it's just a fly swatter that hasn't been used to like actually kill bugs with.
Who
I
cares?
think
It's
at
long
that
as it's
point, it
fucking
doesn't matter.
badass.
I couldn't hear any of that from either. You guys are talking at the same
I
time.
think at that point, Nick, it doesn't matter if it's been used to actually hit flies. They just smack them.
Yeah.
It's
Biggle
dual,
Tom.
Yeah, so
it's dual
it's just
purpose.
hearing stories like that.
It's dual purpose. No, I didn't do that. I pulled the car over, and we would get out of the car.
Oh wow!
We were pulling over, and we would get out of the car. I think I've only had to spank one time when we actually got out of the car, because I'd say we're pulling over, and they're like, no, we want to get there. Don't pull over. All right, silence. One time she slapped me so hard. Yeah. My daughter, yeah. My daughter, when she was, I want to say 15, 16, she thought she was big enough to take mom on. And she ran that little mouth. Her boyfriend was there. So she ran her little mouth. And it wasn't bad. Like, she wasn't cussing me. She was just back talking. And I told her, I said, that's enough. This is where it stops. And she mouthed something else and went and slammed something in a room. And I walked in there. I said, all right. I said, do you think you're big enough? And she stood up like this, like she was going to fight. And I said, you're going to rethink this right now. I said, you have two choices. We're going to go outside, or you're going to sit your ass down, because this ain't where it ends. And she looks at me and mouths something else. I said, let's go outside. And I turned to walk out the door. And she's like, no. I said, no, you want to run your mouth. Let's go outside. You want to talk to me like you're a lady? You're going to fight me like a lady. Let's go. And needless to say, neither one of us ever made it out the door. But she absolutely never talked to me like that again either. Just like boys have to be scared of their dad. Fear turns to respect. And they're either going to fear or respect him. Either way, it's going to turn out well. And just like her, she feared me because she knew, you want to talk to me like a woman? I'll treat you like one. But
I'm going to take no shit.
no, but it never got that far because fear turned to respect. Bye, Julie.
Take care, Julie.
Yeah, that shit don't fly. But now, it's gentle parenting. My daughter runs a daycare. Okay, I think I've said this before. Some kids with gentle parenting, you cannot tell them the word no. You have to use a different word other than no. You can't use negativity. If they're doing something they're not supposed to do, you can't say, no, don't do that. You have to say, why don't we do this? Do you think those cops, when they arrest your kid when he's 16, is going to say, let's go do this?
Oh, you're
Now,
going to
sometimes
jail.
you got to scream out no to get them to stop something right away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
If
and that, I
they
just,
put their hand on fire, you're going to
I was,
say, let's, and they're going to stop? No.
I was just thinking about this, and like what Braxton just said, kids out here acting like they're grown. There was a video that I saw
They
a
do.
couple weeks. There was a video that went on. It was on freaking YouTube, and I almost said Utah,
It might have been
YouTube.
from Utah.
You got Utah on the mind.
No, anyways, there was a video I saw from damn YouTube, and it was a video. I think it was like in Falls River, Massachusetts. No, it had nothing to do with Lizzie Borden house. It was just in Falls River, Massachusetts, and there were all these there. I still don't. It's hard to see because it's coming from a police camera, chest cam.
Yeah.
So you can only see what the officer is recording,
Right.
and from what I remember hearing it was like all these high school kids, which based on their appearance, they looked like they were from 15 to 18 years old. And they were at a McDonald's. Now, sounds normal enough. Like, kids just going there to have lunch. Well, obviously, it was more, not all of them were there for that purpose. Some of them were, but most of them weren't. According to what I heard, I think they were like out in some parking lot at first, like that they were trying to start a fight or something like that. And then they were asked to leave, and they ended up going to the McDonald's. And like I said, yes, some of them were there to eat, but others were probably ate there first, but literally were loitering, causing disturbances, and not. They were asked to leave this time, and a lot of them were. Of course, some of them that showed up at the McDonald's were not there to eat at all. They were just there basically to cause trouble and to raise hell. And so they had to call the police because it was getting out of control. Like not even the manager could get rid of them. And the officers started, giving all these warnings saying, look, you guys don't leave, getting the handcuffs off. We're going to handcuff the first person we see. Although they still managed to just kind of identify which ones were the troublemakers and which ones were, because they would ask, you got a receipt? Got a receipt? If you got a receipt, you're good to go then, because, you're here to eat, obviously. If you don't have one, either we're going to arrest you or you get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
And eventually, they finally had enough. They ended up arresting one of the kids, and you just hear. I'm not trying to make it sound like it's a racial thing. It was a black kid that they arrested, but it was a whole bunch of other kids that they arrested, regardless of race. But this kid, though, I mean, it didn't matter about his race. He was acting extremely violent towards the officers, saying all these, obscenities. And to make matters worse, all of a sudden, these other kids, the other kids that were causing trouble, they just start going after the officers like crazy. And they're trying to make it look like it was the officers who started. When I was like, no, it wasn't. And I just can't help but think to myself, because at the end of the day, it's like, what kind of upbringing did these kids have to become this like violent temper? Like they felt like they ran the place, and
Well,
these fucking kids between 15 to 18 years old.
but here's the thing: we've got two scenarios going on that we're only seeing part of, and that's the issue. We're not living in the areas that this is happening, but what we're seeing part of, we see one side where police are treating people like they should not be, and they are abusive to people. That's the bad cops. Then we have this side over here where, because of those bad cops, good cops cannot do their job anymore.
Right.
There's things that they are restricted from doing. And so, that line there is very, very blurry. And these bad cops have caused a huge rift between everyone. I don't even like cussing or talking a certain way in front of people old enough to be my parents or grandparents. I'm talking a certain way.
Yeah.
I
Sometimes you just can't help yourself.
Yeah. Well,
My mouth is like a sailor. I've been around truck drivers too damn long.
Well,
Here's the thing: when it comes to us being around older people, most of us have it in mind. Okay, I need to be on my best behavior, and there are other people who just don't give a shit.
I did not cuss in front of my mother the day she died. She never heard me cuss because if I cussed around her, the hair on the back of my neck would stand up. Not because she ever did anything, because I did, because I was raised not to. So I just did not in front of her.
It's like you just did the ultimate sin.
Yeah, yeah, and she
was-
was, Miss Church Lady and this and that, and no, mm-mm.
I'm going to be honest. I mean, I've never done that in the case of my parents, like at least not to them, because I will admit, there had been a few times I had cussed, but if I did, it was very rare that I ever did. But most of the time, it was revolving around something else that was going on, but it was not involving them. And there was, long story short, I think the one time I think I really cussed up a lot around my parents was actually due to an incident 10 years ago now, that it was involving, I would just say, people who I thought were my friends. And it was like horrific. And it was not only involving me, it was also involving a girlfriend of mine that I was dating at that time, that she was also being victimized too. And believe it or not, I still have the evidence of that on a different Facebook page that I no longer use. I kept that with me ever since. But at the time when this happened, it's like I just lost total control of myself. I mean, it got so bad that, let's just say, for example, even if my parents were that strong enough to show that physical discipline, I think it got to a point where it's like not even they. I mean, I was 22 at that point, so it wouldn't have been used anyway. But even if I was younger, it would have been to a point where it's like not even they could stop me, because I mean, Larry, I was just out of control. It was like,
Sometimes that happens.
yeah, it was through an intensive rage moment. So, but yours, they look back at it now, and understandably, they didn't blame me for feeling the way how I was, and they knew that I was not taking it out on them. They knew that I was going through like an intensive rage episode, which normally I've never gone through. I've never even experienced that like myself before. So this was really one of those few situations that my parents were like they didn't know what to do. It was kind of one of those few times where they felt powerless. And yes, I look back at it now and I still feel bad for that. But I mean, the reality is, I guess sometimes there's just those times, like you just said, Jerry. Sometimes it happens that you just don't really have, whether it's your kid or whoever, you just don't have any control over the situation. You're just along for the ride and just hope it ends soon. But I did, in spite of my outrage that I had, I still managed to have at least enough mentality to isolate myself.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and a lot of times that rage comes out not because something is aimed at us, but because it's aimed at someone else that we care about. We'll let a lot go for ourselves, but when it comes to someone else that you feel you need to protect, or that you don't think they're going to stand up for themselves, that's when it turns bad.
Well, and it's also due to the fact that not only were these people were people and by the way, I'm actually going to throw it out. Don actually was, well, not Don. He was not part of the incident, but he unfortunately had to experience that for himself, because he was on this. So he didn't take part in it, obviously, but he was just horrified later on of what was going on. So, and at that time, these were all people that we thought were our friends, and I had worked so hard of trying to get these friends, and I'm ashamed to admit, I paid for a lot of their stuff that they wanted to do and stuff like that, and this was seriously how they repaid me. So it's like,
That's
like
how
I
we
said,
learn.
yeah, since then, I've never, among the things that I should have seen the warning signs sooner before I lost control of myself.
Now you
Because,
know how we feel, those of us that have been married before and divorced.
well, what I mean,
We should have seen the warning signs.
I should, well, at a time when I was really still kind of fresh of trying to have like an actual social group of people, like group of friends, it was difficult for me to really distinguish that. And once again, this kind of goes back to when I've talked about the difficulties of me having autism, where I essentially was being taken advantage of. You know, I was trying to have just, you know, a simple group of friends to hang out with, watch horror movies with, do fun stuff with. What I didn't realize, these people that I was hanging out with were people that were just here for basically drinking, sex, violence. I mean, all this other stuff. And even when I started having like my first social group, and I'm ashamed to admit it, unfortunately, was that even the first couple times I finally had people I thought were my friends over, they would, like where I'm sitting, like they would go to the back of the basements, and you know, if you know what I mean, obviously, and we're talking underagers too. So and it's like it shocks me now. It's like thinking what they were doing back then could have sent them to jail, me to jail, my parents to jail, their parents to jail.
At
But
that point, I probably would have put smoke detectors back there, so
what's
that
that?
I would have put smoke detectors back there, so that if they did start doing something, beep 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 beep.
Yeah, it would have been nice, but of course, obviously, at that time, I didn't know. And also, this was when I was all I just cared about was just trying to have an actual social group of friends and just try to, just try and get my life fully together.
And we've all been through that. But like Braxton said, some people are in your life for a reason, others only for a season. But even those
I
that
like
are
that.
there for a season are there for a reason because they taught you something.
They did, and um, in spite of what they were going through, they also they actually called me some pretty horrific names too. I mean, it
Of
was just
course.
yeah. So again, I'm going to keeping it real short because it would be too long. In fact, it happened in May of 2015, and that was a day that I later referred to it as Black Tuesday because of just how negative and how nasty it was. Where the group that I had at the time, it was also supposed to be kind of like a horror film club, and the fact that they were doing all this, unacceptable stuff made me realize that I needed to start. Um, I had to. It made me no. It gave me no choice but to establish some rules in some way. Kind of like all this talk about discipline and stuff. I kind of had to put discipline onto it. I didn't want to do it, but unfortunately, when they were starting to do all this stuff, it left me no choice. Because especially if we were ever going to get any new folks to join our group, I did not want people to think of it that way. I wanted people to think of it as just a simple paranormal and horror film social group.
Mm-hmm.
So I made a list with a couple of those that did side with me. We put the list on our group page that we had at the time, and at first, a couple good likes,
Yeah.
a couple people agreed, and then 2 days later, Black Tuesday, um, I came home from work, and this was when I used to work in my old job at the time. I was exhausted like I usually would. I took a nap, and then after I woke up from my nap, it was probably around 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening. I get a text from because my girlfriend at the time was part of it. She texts me and she says, "Have you been on your page lately?" As soon as I saw that text, I just thought, like something really bad had happened. I mean, I was afraid. I mean, I was really afraid of what I was going to, and what I saw was it was horrifying. There was, the guy that said it was, and normally I don't talk this way, but I'm going to say it anyway. He's like, "So where is the rule about fucking lying cancer," or something like that? Because my girlfriend at the time she had a growth within her, which, truth be told, she didn't know if it was cancerous. But anytime you get news about a growth or a tumor, it's gonna freak you the hell out, obviously, because you just think the worst.
Uh-huh.
And at around that same time, this guy that said this, he had an uncle of his that did pass away from cancer. And it was later found out that the tumor was denied. I mean, it was benign.
Yeah.
So it was like, okay, good. That's good. But unfortunately, she kind of had a history of kind of lying at times. But, you know, you do have the so-called pathological liars. And I would not be surprised. I mean, I know that there's even people with autism out there that have had a history of lying, basically. So I think for her case, to defend her case, is that it was just simply part of her learning disability. And
See?
but unfortunately, these so-called friends, they just started, saying all this nasty stuff. And there didn't really seem to be a rhyme or reason to it.
Yeah, there was their scapegoat where they could go to do things and have somebody pay for those things was now gone.
Yeah, well, and what they started saying was, and this was one of the names they started saying, and it's still, they started calling me Nicktatorship.
So that's a bad thing. How? Number one, that's your home. Number two, that was your money.
It was just awful. Now I'm still glad that a few of those friends of mine actually did fight back, and those are the ones that to this day that I never even really had the opportunity of, because unfortunately after that whole incident I lost track of some of those people. But if I could, even though it's been a decade now, if there was ever a chance for me to meet up with them, I would seriously thank the hell out of them for trying to fight for me even before I even found out about this. Like, I admire the shit out of them for trying to do the right thing. But after the last message I ever got from any one of those people, because this got so bad that my parents had to get involved with this. And my dad ended up commenting about this whole thing. And probably about an hour after he commented, that same guy that started this whole thing texted me personally on my phone. And he says to me, if you keep going on about this with your parents, you're going to lose all your friends.
So he was trying to hide what he was doing.
Yeah, he really was.
Well, and that doesn't change when you're an adult. You still got people like that if you aren't careful about the friends you choose. And sometimes you don't even know they're that kind of people, even as an adult. And
You do. Yeah, you don't.
Yeah, we all found that out the hard way.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I paid almost the ultimate price for that too. So I've been through a lot of, and like I said, after this incident that occurred 10 years ago, I mean, like I said, I was just not myself that night. It was so bad that even if my parents wanted to do something, they were powerless against me. It was like, it was almost like I was like a completely different person. Like, I mean, I was basically knowing what I was doing, but it was like I was not there. Literally, it was like, and even after I finally calmed down, it was like, it's like even then, it's like I didn't even fully remember what happened. It was like blank in my eyes.
That's called a blackout from anger.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I knew what was going on, but it was almost like I wasn't myself anymore when that happened.
There are times in my job that because you have to control your mouth, imagine me controlling my mouth. You have to control
There
your mouth.
does come a time when that has to happen.
And, you know, when you're sitting there listening to somebody scream at you in your ear and calling you names, and yes, we are allowed to disconnect the call, but sometimes they just go under that line and they are yelling for 15 minutes. There comes a point you completely black out, and it happens. And at that point, do you have enough self-control to not say anything, or do you go off?
I wouldn't have that kind of self control, because as soon as somebody, if I had your job, and as soon as somebody starts yelling at me, I may give one warning, but after that, I'm disconnecting right away. I'm not putting up with 15 minutes of that.
Yeah,
That could happen.
I honestly at one point, I mean, it was so bad. I mean, I was even becoming kind of like I was starting to make all these threats again, not to my parents, but like extreme threats to these people that I really wanted to say. Like, I almost texted back saying, don't ever text me back. Don't ever come back here. And if I see you on this property again, I swear to God, I'll kill you guys. I mean, that's how extreme I really was when this whole attack occurred on me. I mean, I know it's extreme now, but it was like,
Well,
that's how much control I lost.
the
I
word
actually
kill.
had somebody text me a couple of days ago who I never thought I'd ever hear from again. She was somebody who used me for, several months. And it actually took, who the hell was it? Oh, okay, a couple of girls ago. So I ended up blocking her on Facebook years ago. And then for whatever reason, she pops up into my DM on Instagram. Why? I have no idea. It was a video. Um, I didn't recognize her handle name. So I went to go take a look at it, and then when I seen that it was a video and saw her, oh, block, and that was it.
Yeah, there's just some things you're not going to relive, and
Yeah,
it's best. You know their character. It's
Yeah.
best to just move on.
yeah.
Well, I think
I wasn't going to dignify anything she had to say to me with a response of any kind.
Yeah.
Well, and I think when I look back into the explosion that I had from 10 years ago, I think it was also due to the fact that, again, with everything that happened to me growing up, all these bad things that occurred, it was like almost like just a matter of time before I eventually, it was like it's, as I would call, the volcano effect. It was going to eventually, I just blew my top when this occurred. And, it was almost kind of like reliving some of those bad moments from the past at that time, of course. So, and, I think I'm just glad now because I did hear where some of these people ended up, like for what they did. Um, the guy that started it, at first I thought I was never going to get any justice out of this. It's like what Braxton said. The twin sisters,
Karma.
Drama and Karma, and the Grim Reaper doesn't discriminate.
Mm-hmm.
I found out a few months ago that his mom had posted at first that he ended up getting some like really successful job. And I saw that, I was like, huh? That's nuts. Like, how's
Was he
he
a
getting?
politician?
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I don't remember what it was, but I was like, like that's nuts. Like, good things after what he had done to me. And I know this is going to sound extreme, but it's like this was a group, this club that I created at that time was something that I formed from high school. And I was hoping not the paranormal club. This was a different club. And I was trying to continue on with that past high school. And the fact that they just destroyed this club, I basically called them murderers practically because they killed something that really meant a lot that I built from scratch. So when his mom was posting about this, of course, like that she was so proud of him and all this kind of stuff, I would say there was probably about a good 20 or 30 people that were cheering for him. And at that time, obviously, that broke my heart because it's like, to me, this guy was a killer. But I found out.
That's the thing. There's been numerous cases where sometimes the biggest bullies in school, they end up becoming very successful business people. But there is a reason that they become successful business people because they take the bully to that point
Mm-hmm.
and they bully their way into being.
That's why I said politician.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like, well, at the time, obviously, because it happened a few months after this incident, I just thought that is just so not fair. Because it's like I got just like all these other incidents, there was no justice. Like I didn't get anything out of this, but I found out a few years later. It sounds like to me his parents were not putting up. That same guy that started sounds like his parents were no longer going to put up with his bullshit. So he's no longer living with them, and it sounds like to me they've disowned him ever since. So I thought to myself, like what Braxton said, the Grim Reaper finally arrived and took care of it for me.
Well, and he probably got too big for his britches at home too.
I met with that family like 2 years later. Ironically enough, it's actually somebody we know. I'm not going to say who it is, though, of course. But I saw him 2 years later at a Paracon, and I spoke with his sister, which unlike Kim and his brother, she was born a decade, later. So she was still like in her preteens at that time. But so she was still just a kid. But even a kid like her, she later came up to me, and we're talking about like a 14, 15-year-old here. Even she knew, because she heard about what happened. Even she knew what her brother did to me was wrong. And she acted, what she said to me afterwards? She later said to me at that event that you never should have gone through any of that. And she was right. I shouldn't have.
No, you shouldn't have, but that is life lessons that we all have to learn.
Yep.
And we need to learn. If we live this little rosy path, we're going to be stupid the rest of our lives. You learned a valuable lesson that day.
I did, but it was a very difficult lesson. And
They all
indeed, I basically lost my head for quite a few days, especially after that incident. So, and as you guys can imagine too, since that incident, even a decade later, I've definitely been a lot more strict on who I bring into my social group. And of course, obviously, even though I'm open to making all these paranormal connections from around the world, again, since you said we've all learned the hard way, there's been some bad ones out there. And I choose the ones that definitely are the most trusted. And
That's why I don't socialize anymore. I really don't.
I don't either.
Yeah, because honestly, I don't give a shit.
Now, I have my friends and I know who they are.
Yeah.
And, if I go somewhere and I meet somebody, that's great. I'll talk to them. I'll be friends with them. If they need something, I'll help them. But as far as, just hanging out all the time,
well, considering that, I can't believe I'm actually about to say this. Considering that there's someone out there that we have talked about, I'm not going to say names, but I think you guys are going to know who I'm talking about, who runs a particular network out there from Texas.
it's not from Texas, but okay.
Well, let's just say it's a network that a lot of us have tended to avoid. But
Well,
she
when
was
it comes to that state, I would say take a number.
No, not from. I'm not saying all investigators from Texas are like that. I'm just saying one particular investigator. But she was at ParasiteCon last year. I told you guys about this last year, where
That one.
Yeah. Now you know what I'm talking about.
Here's the thing, Nick. When I think of investigators from Texas, and I think of the people that have done us wrong, there is more than one person from Texas or right there by Texas that have done us wrong. That's done me wrong. That's done you wrong. That's done Adrian wrong. And it's not always the same people.
Yep. And you know what? Half the time I don't remember their names because they're just about that important.
What I'm just simply trying to say
they exist.
Yeah.
What I'm just trying to simply say is the bottom line is that, she basically treated me like shit, last year, just maybe a simple hi and shake hands, but that was it. But honestly, I could care less the way how she was treating me. And even if she didn't post the picture of us with the Booth brothers, because you know what? There were plenty of other investigators, including the Booth brothers, that I was able to socialize with and get along with just fine. So, it's like, okay, you don't want to get along with me? Fine. I got all these other people. And if you guys saw the post when I made the announcement of going to ParasiteCon this
I was
weekend.
telling her about that before you hopped on.
What's that?
I was telling her about that before you hopped on.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah. And you saw, yes, I tagged a lot, but that was mainly to notify those that were.
I told her that too, that you tagged 99 people.
Yeah, there's a lot going out to it, but yeah, it was to notify that I was confirming of going, and either way, still you saw there's a lot of investigators that are really looking forward to seeing of wanting to see me at this thing.
Oh, I didn't even see the responses. I think when
Oh,
I saw it, you had
I didn't
just
either.
posted it.
yeah, there was a lot of response. There was a lot more
Here,
than I anticipated, and of course, not all of them came from those that I tagged. Also, others outside the tagging.
Here's the thing: you're looking at this all wrong, and how I know you're looking at this all wrong is your wording. You said
Awarded?
yes. You said these investigators are looking forward to meeting you or seeing you. No, it doesn't matter what they're looking forward to. What matters is what you are looking forward to. What is it? Who is it you want to see?
Yeah.
You're not going up there some famous thing.
No, and I'm
Going up
not,
there.
and nor do I ever encourage that. No, no.
Right. So it's who you want to see. Who do
Yes.
you want to meet with, and who do you want to see?
Yeah, I mean, you pinpoint. You
That's
basically
exactly right.
pinpointed. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, they absolutely, and that's why my circle is small. Now, anybody who wants to message and talk to me, I do. And if they end up becoming a friend, that's great. But, I never think the worst of somebody. I let them show me. And if they show me, yeah, I'm going to believe it. And then they're just an acquaintance and we're okay. And you just stay there and you can never fuck me over. We're good.
Someone knows. I'm just reading what
Yeah.
Brax said. Was someone knows. Someone shows you who they are. Believe them. Be glad it was to your face up front and not behind your. That's actually true because this individual that I'm talking about, like I said, we got a picture with her, and we were among one of the pictures that she did not upload. So, but honestly, because I've already heard a number of bad things about her to begin with, I honestly didn't care. I really didn't. It didn't bother. Didn't think twice afterwards.
Well, those kinds of things just really, you go for the reason of going, and you go for the reason of seeing the people you want to see and your friends and the experience you're going to have. Anything past that is just a bonus. That's all.
Like I could tell you guys right now. I mean, for a Parasite Con, it's unfortunate they don't. This there's one thing they don't do. This is the one thing they don't do, like Michigan did. But there's not. They don't have an after party like the Michigan.
You
Although,
don't need an after party.
well, no. What I was gonna. Well, I
You
always like
can't
to do
even show your ass up to the before party,
it.
let alone an after.
Well, I will tell you this: they do have a VIP party, which is going to happen tomorrow night, but it's not even worth going to for two reasons. One, it's not even like at a bar, so it's not like they have karaoke that we can perform at. It's
Well,
like
that's
at
no
a
fun.
what's that?
That's no fun.
Yeah, I know. It's not even there. It's like at I think last year they had it like at like a banquet hall or something like that, and it was essentially just standing around talking, and that was it. It's like I could do that at the Paracon itself.
Right.
I don't need to go to something like that.
Right.
So-
Now, there's nothing better than singing Ghostbusters with all the mediums.
Did I ever tell you, by the way, that I remember a few years again at Michigan Paracon, we had John Zaffis at that, and we did this again last year too. He had just entered, as I would call it, his 50th year of service in the paranormal. 50 years for him, and we all got together, close to the stage, and I think it was the the Tennessee Wraith Chasers. I think that were up there. I don't remember, but Dave Schrader and Jeff. Oh my God, what was his last name? Oh my God, he used to work for Ghost Adventures.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh my God, it's the
Fent?
okay. What?
Fent?
No, not Fence. Oh my God, it's like I know I've met him several times. I can't even remember his name. Jeff.
We're actually at 10 o'clock, so.
Okay, well, Joe, wait, no, it just came back. Jeff Bellinger. There we go. Jeff Bellinger. And
Oh, Ed just said it.
Yeah.
thank you. I saw it before you said it. But anyways, they had John Zaffis up on the stage. He didn't sing himself, but they all sang Ghostbusters to him because it was his 50th year in the Paranormal Field. But instead of us all yelling out Ghostbusters, we all yelled out John Zaffis.
Yeah, I used to get pissed off when somebody hated me, and then I realized they hate me for one of two reasons. Either they're jealous, or I stood up for something that they disagreed with. Either way, it's fine with me. If you stand up for something, you're going to be hated. So it's okay.
Just one more thing, though. Like I said,
All
for the
just
event,
made the list. I know what he's talking about there.
Chris, you know where to find me, and you can kiss my ass.
So just one more
No,
thing
it's something that he's referring to when he's the list that he's referring to is probably one of the greatest storylines I've ever
I have
heard.
no idea what he's referring to. I really
Yeah.
With
don't.
him, it's hard telling.
I could explain it to you, but it's really something that you would have to watch.
Okay.
It's
But yeah,
entertaining.
for Parasite Economy, yeah, they have the VIP party, and and the price to even be part of the VIP party is like insane. It's like $120 per person
Because they added VIP on it.
for the VIP, but still, and it doesn't even go for that long. And the only other thing that's happening also at Parapsychon is obviously the investigation that's going to follow at OSR on Saturday night, which the price for that alone is $230. And it only goes like between 8:30 p.m. and 2:30 a.m. So and there's no guarantee because it's the big name investigations. There's no guarantee they're even going to stay for it. Because when we were there last year, Mike Ricksecker and Brian J. Cano, they ended up leaving a little bit after 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, the event is definitely worth it, the con itself, but to go to the VIP party and the investigation, knowing how expensive they are, not to mention how many people are going to be at the investigation, too much interference, it's just not even worth it. We're not going to spend our money like that for something that's just not going to go so well.
Well, I'm looking at the investigation ticket price, $229 a person.
$230.
And it says does not include admission to Parapsychon. Bullshit.
Correct.
If I'm going
That's
to be
correct.
paying that much, I'm getting everything.
That's what I mean. It's not even worth being a part of. And again, even those that do pay, then you have too many people in the building. And in my personal opinion, when you have those type of investigations, especially when you have I always describe them as the one type of investigation where you have the most arguments that occur, because especially newcomers that come in. I heard this or saw this, it's paranormal. No, it was because this, and then all of a sudden you start having these arguments. It ruins the investigation.
Or even different people's investigating techniques. They're right. They're the only ones right. I don't join in any of that stuff.
I was on Greg's show Monday, and we were actually talking about these open investigations with celebrities, and I told him, and he agreed, Debbie agreed, that these celebrity investigations are not investigations at all. It's basically just a performance.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
We got lucky. We were lucky. With Mustafa, we got an investigation.
Yes.
Well,
And Mike,
but at the same time, Mustafa was only just with one of the group because we put everybody together.
Right.
And even the group that didn't have Mustafa in it, there was 30 people there.
Yep. They were still a huge group.
You can't investigate with 30 people.
Actually, I think the least amount of people was the ones with Mustafa, because that's who I was with.
I know I was with Mustafa on the first night, I think.
Yeah, I think it was the first night.
Yeah, because I wasn't there the second night.
And like I was just saying, like even with someone like Mike Ricksecker, like Tom and I have had a number of opportunities to actually investigate with him because he's supposed to be like part of the big names, but Tom and I have been able to do it at least a good 3, 4, 5 times at least. And of course, one of those even included being interviewed for his documentary series, The Shadow Dimension, which in case any of you guys want to watch, check it out. It's an 8-part, I think it's like a 6 or 8 part series that Mike made. He made 2 seasons of it a few years ago. You could find that series on Tubi. And that was, in fact, when we got interviewed, that was one of the very few investigations that we did. COVID. We had to go to Ohio for that too. But we had the opportunity to investigate. Bottom line is, we've had the opportunity for investigating with Mike. And after what we've experienced, with him, and he's also written, we've also written he's written a story in a book involving us in the investigation. That was a true investigation right there. It was not for performance. And I get what everyone else is saying, that they don't have time for the cons. The cons are not bad. They're actually a lot of fun, because you get to socialize. It's like I said, it's the investigation that follows. It's just not worth being a part of.
Yeah. I like our little groups that we go investigating with. We don't have to worry about who's faking what, who's doing
Yes.
what. I do enjoy going out and socializing at the events and things like that. But as far as investigating,
No, I'm looking at the premier package for
Parasicon.
okay, Jill, what is that?
Wait, Joe sent something to you?
Yeah, he's going somewhere, but I have never heard of Hog Dad.
Oh, Hodag. That's it's hard to say if like Joe's going to have to. This is one of the few times that Joe may have to step in for it. It's hard to say if this is like an actual cryptid that people have seen, because
Oh,
there was supposedly like a corpse that was discovered, I think, like back in the 1890s of a supposed
oh,
Hodag, as they call it,
uh,
and it's like
it,
this.
it sounded like a motorcycle event.
It kind of does. It really does.
I thought it was Hog Dad or something.
No, it's Hodag, and
Okay.
I supposedly there are people who said they've seen this creature too, but I have not actually came across like any real accounts. And the pictures that were taken back of the supposed Hodag in the 1890s, I think it was like 1897, they later turned out to be fake.
Okay.
Well,
Now-
just like a chupacabra.
Yeah, it's like a chupacabra like creature,
Probably
but
a
as far as I know, I've never actually heard of any like reports, encounters, or sightings of this actual creature. I mean, maybe at some point when I have an opportunity, I'll actually look, but right now, I've never really heard of any actual reports of it.
I'll have
Now
to-
I am looking at this premium package for Parasicon. It's $410. You get the 2 days admission. You get the celebrity investigation. You get the kickoff party, and then for an extra $10, you get preferred seating and speakers, priority entrance. You get a T-shirt, a souvenir coin,
Yep.
a souvenir program.
The whole package.
Yeah. So, and it's a $478 deal. You pay only $410, and honestly, you're still overpaying.
Yeah,
No,
you really
I
are.
did not pay 400 and anything
No
for
way.
any reason. Braxton, she is one of my favorite singers,
Oh
actually.
yes, I was going to
Okay.
answer that too. I know exactly the Hurricane Mills plantation. Yep.
I don't, but I'm going to look into it.
Loretta Lynn, long story short, is in fact I'll have to send this to you, Adrian.
Okay.
And in fact, she actually hosted one of the old paranormal documentaries over 25 years ago, back in 1999, on the Travel Channel, and that video, thankfully, is still up on YouTube. So if you want to check it, she talks about the plantation. So what I'll do is when I get off after this, I'll send it to you so you can check it out.
Okay. Yeah. Because
But I know.
is that
I
still
know-
around?
I think the plantation is still around, but of course, I know Loretta Lynn did pass away about a year or two ago, I think. And I don't know if you guys ever heard. Did you ever hear that song? She did a song, not really intentionally supposed to be like a actual association with the plantation, but it is now. She did a song, recorded a song back in 1964, ironically called "This Haunted House." Did you guys ever hear that song before? Or?
Yes.
Oh, but I found it.
It's a good song, and I mean, yes, it's labeled a Halloween song too now because of the story about it, but it's been associated with the plantation ever since, and it was supposed to be revolving around who was that other country singer that she was friends with.
Was it
She
Reba
was
McEntire?
one of them.
Reba
It
McEntire
was
was friends.
she passed away the year before in 1963. Who was it that? Oh my God, who? Oh, Patsy Cline. Patsy Cline.
Oh, I cannot do Patsy Cline. That
Why not?
whistling, I cannot do that whining and wait. Mm-mm.
Well, she was good friends with Patsy Cline, and when she died, Loretta Lynn Larry explained that she wrote that song like within just like a small period, and that song was originally intended for Patsy Cline when she passed away because again she was
Oh.
good friends with her.
I wonder. I'm going to have to look into that and see if that's something that like they allow tours or what's going on.
I actually was hoping,
Loretta's husband is the one who wrote that song.
you're right. You're right. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
actually
Patsy
hoping.
died in a plane crash. Um, and I remember there was a story about Loretta Lynn and Patsy Cline. She gave her a dress or something to that effect. I don't remember the whole story, but
That's right.
yeah.
But she
She's
was-
one of those you can hear their voice and you know who it is, kind of like Dolly Parton or
Yep.
Loretta Lynn. I mean, not Loretta Lynn. Oh my God, Dolly Parton. Of course, you know exactly whose voice that is.
Reba McEntire.
Reba McEntire, you know whose voice that is. Oh,
Patsy
awesome.
Cline, yeah, she would have been around the late 80s, early 90s. Yeah, Adrian, I just sent you the documentary. Jeremy, I'm going to send it to you too in case you want to check it out.
She would have been 91 in April this year.
Who would have?
Patsy
Loretta
Cline, I
Lynn.
think. Oh, no, Loretta Lynn, yeah.
No, Loretta Lynn died 3 years ago at the age of 90.
Okay, so that means she would have been 93 if she was still alive today.
Let's see, her daughter just put something up not long ago.
And if
93.
you go on to.
Mom
yeah,
would have been 93.
Yeah, because Loretta's birthday was a month ago.
Yep. April 14th. Yeah, Butcher Hollow. That's one of her famous songs.
Stand by Your Man.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, wait, no. Am I thinking of somebody different?
Um,
She did Winer's Daughter.
Stand By Your Man was Tammy Wynette.
Okay. I do know that Loretta Lynn did Coal Miner's Daughter.
Yeah, Braxton, if you want to check out the song, like I said, it's called This Haunted House by Loretta Lynn. And in fact, the original video that was uploaded about that song actually was uploaded by Loretta Lynn herself because she described herself in the video. And throughout the song, it's I like the slideshow she made because it was mainly pictures involving her, obviously, like when she was younger back in the 60s. But there are also a couple pictures, with and without her, with Patsy Cline in. Because again, the song was dedicated to her.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I knew there was a little story there that how they became friends was very unusual, but they stayed real close up until.
Yeah, they were like sisters almost at one point. Like they were. That was the reason why again that her husband ended up writing the song, and it was just the song. Even though obviously Patsy Cline died at the age of 30, it still kind of has kind of like that because a lot of songs at that time were being written similar to this one. It had that teenage tragedy like theme to it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they were you know, the music isn't the same anymore, and that's a good thing.
No, it's not.
because-
There's been a lot of musicians that have died in plane crashes.
I know.
Oh yeah, yeah. The man that, which I'm sure one of these guys can tell me, um, the man that owns Allsup's in New Mexico, um, he was one that did a coin flip for the airplane with the guy that died in the airplane crash, and it was a musician. And I can't remember his name. He was not country, but they did a coin flip, and he lost, and that plane went down. Now he owns a bunch of Allsup stores in New Mexico. I've met him. Really nice guy.
Jeez. I was just looking something else up too. I mean, not a musician, but actually a film director. And I mean, obviously, I'm not going to get into too much of it because I know we got to end. So I'll make this short. This is actually something more for Fear fans, but I'll still talk about. There was a guy that I can't remember who his name was, but in 1976, he made this movie that was almost like a forerunner to like what would eventually be his death. He made this movie that was the movie was originally filmed in 1971. It was called Slaughter, I think, originally, but they ended up they added some scenes in 76, and it became a movie obviously called Snuff. It was supposed to be based on the urban legend of snuff movies, and obviously it wasn't. And it was made down in South America, as a matter of fact. And less than like a year later, that same director that made that movie, it wasn't a plane crash, but it was like he and a few other people were about to get on a helicopter, and the helicopter just like malfunctioned, and the what do you call those things that
The
the
blades,
things that what
the rotor blades.
yeah, the rotor blades. The helicopter went out of control, and it literally sliced the director and these other guys that were standing. They didn't have enough time to get out of the way, and it was just like just killed them instantly, almost resembling in a way to what that movie they made just a year prior. It was just like
It's almost like Freebird.
yeah, they were like sliced literally, like it was like they said it was an absolutely horrific accident, and one other citizen was killed from this accident as well. So yeah, it was like very much like that. Yeah,
Richie Valens.
Richie Valens.
Tommy also lost the coin toss to Richie Valens.
Wasn't he the one that died in the day the music died?
Yeah, Big Bopper, Richie Valens,
Was in there,
Yeah.
but Holly.
Big Buddy Holly.
Buddy Holly. Yeah,
Yep. Yeah. So Tommy also lost the coin toss to Richie Valens, and then that's how Tommy ended up living and owning Allsup's, and Richie Valens died.
and he was
Well-
the youngest out of the three. He was only 17.
Waylon Jennings, I think, was supposed to be on that plane too.
Hmm.
And he was doing a little banner with one of the guys. The guy said, "I hope your car crashes," and Waylon said, "I hope your plane crashes," and plane crashed.
Gotta
Yep.
be careful of the words you say.
Yes, you do.
Well, who would have ever thought?
Yeah, really.
Yeah. I've learned to be careful with my words because sometimes it can be the last words you say, and whether you meant it or not.
It's really the ultimate. Be careful what you wish for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, you're the one's got to live with what you said. They don't
Yeah.
care. And
Even if he wasn't really wishing for that,
no.
just the knowledge that he actually said it,
Yeah.
I'm
He's
sure.
gotta live with it.
So I would
Yeah, it is.
about that song. Now that I didn't know about that song until you mentioned it.
This haunted house.
Yeah, so I will definitely be looking that up. I want to listen to it.
And that song, undoubtedly, I mean, when you watch the documentary, that song plays immediately right at the beginning. And of course, obviously, several years ago, Ghost Adventures investigated it, and they meet Loretta Lynn, and that song plays during the course of that episode too. So, even though it was not meant for the Hurricane Mills plantation, much associated with it.
Yeah, I won't be watching the Ghost Adventures one.
No,
But
you don't have to watch that, but I would definitely recommend watching the old, because this was one of the older documentaries, which I've always said, like I've always said before, the older paranormal shows are far more better because you see this one, I can guarantee, because it's been many years since I've seen it, wasn't about getting the best evidence. It was just having interviews, talking to people, their experiences, and other than Loretta Lynn, and that was it. That's all what it was about. This was 1999 that this was filmed.
yeah, yeah. And what time are you supposed to leave in the morning?
So because there's nothing really going on tomorrow other than the VIP party, we don't have to be in a rush. So we're probably going to leave like probably around 10 or 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. And by the time we get there, yeah, the sun will be setting, but it shouldn't be no more than like 6 or 7 o'clock in the evening.
It won't be set at that point. But doesn't that mean you should probably get the last minute stuff together and get yourself in bed?
Yeah.
I already got the stuff taken care of.
No, you're
Yeah,
going
we
to
will
walk back
tell
up
because
and
you
go,
were
oh,
ready
my
to
gosh.
wait.
Wait. Sorry, what was that?
Shreveport.
We could-
Yeah, let me know. I was there in Shreveport. I like this.
The other thing too,
area.
that I was kind of concerned about, there was another interruption for today. It was that earlier today we were also under a tornado watch, which that ended up turning into a severe thunderstorm warning. So we had all this crazy wind and stuff and hail. So that caused some concern for us. But it sounds like even though we're still under the watch, we're good now as far as I know.
The storm's already.
Couldn't stop you from packing. It could be hailing all at once outside, and it could be windy all at once outside. That does not stop you from doing what you need to do.
I got most of the packing done. I'm not even bringing that much.
Yep, you'll walk in there and go, "Oh my gosh, I forgot this."
Are you doing the 2 day thing? Or are you just going for
Yes.
1 day?
Yeah, we're gonna do the 2-day thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're gonna. Obviously, we're not on Sunday. Understand, we're not going to be there obviously till the end of the event, because obviously, by the time it's over, it's going to be like 4 o'clock in the afternoon at that point. And Mike doesn't, like I said, Mike Myers is going with me this time, not Tom, because Tom's still recuperating from the surgery. But like Mike and I were actually just on the phone before, like about 2 hours before I came on here, and just as expected, he wants to get back home early. And I don't blame him, because I got to get back home early that night too.
All right. Well, let's say bye. And Braxton, you
Call
need
it
to stay safe out of that weather. I know what that's like over there, and that's not a joke.
It's Louisiana. That's weather for Louisiana. In Louisiana,
Yeah, that's no joke.
they got basically both the hurricanes and tornadoes.
Oh,
No, I'll pass on that one.
all right, y'all.
I'm actually going to be heading out too for a little bit. So before I go to sleep, so in case you guys see pictures, I'm telling you now before you guys say, shouldn't you be in bed?
Well, hopefully we'll be getting some sleeping pictures. So
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm supposed to go out briefly tonight because we were going to go see the new Final Destination movie.
So you'll definitely be sleeping tomorrow.
Well, maybe not on the way there, but possibly the way back. You never know.
No.
You'll probably be sleeping on the way there because you always do. I rode with you, remember?
Yeah, I know, but hey, keep in mind, I'm also not. At least I'm not waking up very early in the morning for it. Like I said, we're not even leaving till like 10 or 11 o'clock tomorrow, so I get to sleep in for a little bit.
All right. Well,
You might be surprised. All
All
right, folks, we're going to call it a night. Next week, we're going to have Nick do most of the talking because we're going to make him tell us stories of how Parasite Con went. That way, Adrian and I can stay quiet.
Yeah, I'm incapable.
And
Yeah.
hopefully, maybe next year you'll be able to come out, Jeremy, if it's on the same weekend like this year.
Well, the thing is, I could go this weekend,
It'd be
but
awesome if you could.
it costs money, and I'm not going to give them my money.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That's why I'm just getting the 2-day weekend pass because it's $50. That's only $50, which is manageable.
Yeah, they have to pay their bill somehow because they got all of these outrageous prices for the celebrities. No,
No,
I'll pass. But in any case, we will have Nick um, do all the talking next week. Then I'm also going to have 13th Dimension back next week. So that's going to be a fun show. So until then, for those of you guys that are going to ParaPsychon, have fun, take pictures,
I will. We
and
definitely will.
and no causing drama.
I'm not about drama when I go over there.
No.
Definitely not.
So in the meantime, you guys have a good weekend. Have a safe weekend. Have a safe trip. And then we will see you all next week.
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.